Okay, everyone, so here's the second part. So we're back to this document, and a few things that I wanted to show you before as well. If you go to the A master pages again, don't make sure you hold the shift key and you can select both. So one of the ways you could do, for example, page numbers, you can you go to the type tool, and for example, I'm going to put my page numbers down here, let the cursor pop up, and then you can go to type, insert special character, you can do markers, and you can do current page numbers. And there's different ways of doing this, right? There's different versions of numbers. You select which one you want. This is code, so notice that it's going to say A. You need to style this to match the typeface. Again, also keep in mind that in InDesign, the standard typeface is Minion Pro. You're not working with that. So make sure that when you output your documents, you're going to end up with a serif face when you're actually working with a sans serif face, the Swiss International Book. So again, I don't have it on this computer, so I'm using Antique, which looks fairly similar. So let's say that I want my numbers always to show up here on this edge, right? Like that's how I want my numbers to go. And you can set, I want them to be 9-point type, right? That means that anything that you put on there, notice that it shows up. So now all the pages are automatically numbered. You don't have to sit there and number manually. If you need to, for example, get rid of on page 1, you can hold the Shift Command key at the same time and select that number. It unlocks it and you can delete it. Because, for example, I wouldn't want it to show up on page 1. I want it to show up on page 2, 3, right? And again, if you put, you can, in your template, you could put a page number for here on the left side if you wanted to have 2, 3, or you could have a page number per spread. One thing to notice is that this page, notice if you look at the format, this page doesn't necessarily follow this grid here, right? So one thing you can do is, if you want to, you can select all the pages. You can go to the hamburger on the pages window, click on it, and you can apply master to pages, and you can just clarify that you want to apply. Sometimes I go and say none, just to flush it out, and then I go back in again, right? And then go to A master. Now for some reason it's not. This is the A master here. That's kind of funny. So one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure that if you do that, for example, on the A master, notice that the module grids are not showing up, so I can go to layout, create guides, and I can go to, let's say I want to do 3 and 3 because I'm doing a rules of thirds. And again, because I'm working with a divisible number of 3, this gutter is 0.16. So I would say it's a 0.15 because if you think of 15 is divisible by 3, right? Or if it's too small, then you go to the next number, which is 18, right? Again, a lot of this is stuff that you need to print out to make sure that it works when you print it out. And there it is. So I've applied the master, and now I sort of know. One of the things to keep in mind in these compositions, and I'll go to the master pages, is again, the center tends to be our like go-to spot. It's usually the weakest spot in the composition. The best spot in the composition is where these lines meet, if you start thinking about it. So you always want to go 2/3 up or down, 2/3 left or right. The center, not that you can't use it, but centering is always the weakest in the composition. Think about that. When your hook is in the center, you want to start thinking about that. Okay, so here's how you do a simple paragraph design, a paragraph style. So you go to Window, and you go to Styles, and you pull out Paragraph. There's 2 kinds of styles. There's paragraphs, and then there's character styles, which are out here somewhere. Yeah, they're there. Right, so here's paragraph, here's character. Here's the way I look at them. Paragraph is mom and dad. They control everything. Character styles, think of it as a highlighter that you use to highlight certain elements, right? So if you, let's say that this is the type you want and you're perfectly fine with it. Notice that the basic paragraph, you cannot change the name of it. That's the basic overall design style for this particular publication. So what you can do is you can either take this and open up you see how we went back to Minion Pro, right? It's set standard, right? So what you can do is you can go here, right? And you can remember what you did, right? So it's 9/15. It's optical with tracking of 6. So you can double click on here, and this is how you set the paragraph. So the paragraph style, basic paragraph, again, is like, I call it mom. Everything else comes out of the basic paragraph, right? So what you do is you go here, and the basic character, you will select Swiss. I'm going to go to antique here, right? Double click on it. Notice there's a lot of sections here, so I'm going to go, what I want to do is I want to look here. So this is going to be 9/15, right? So I'm going to go to 9/15, the leading. The kerning I'm going to set to optical. The tracking I'm going to set to 3 points. You can change the case. You can change the position, right? You can turn your ligatures on, right, with the 2 letters. The FI, for example, is one case. You can go to advanced character formats, which you don't want to skew. You don't want to vertical scale or horizontal scale. You need to stretch type. You need to find a typeface that's already stretched. You don't stretch type. You can select the indentation, so you can look at the alignments here. So right now I'm just going to leave it aligned to the left with the rag. I'm not justifying. Justify text, just so you know, requires a lot of work because you have to massage, what we call massage the type, to avoid rivers, those ungainly spaces in between words. So I'm going to leave it to the left. You can choose to balance the ragged line. Notice how it does that. See, but sometimes those rags get a little crazy, so you want to be careful there. You can align to the grid, all lines. That is where you align your type to the grid. So if you use the style sheet, you can do the alignment to the grid fairly easy. And then you can control the space after. So that means that after every return, there is this 0.12 spacing in between, right? Or you can control more if you want more space. You know, that's one way to sort of signal to a reader that there's a new section, a new chapter, a new paragraph. So let's do, again, I'm staying proportional. So I'm like going to stay with the 0.125. You can do left indentation. You can do right indentation. You can indent the first line if you want to, which means that, of course, you can control that tab. What normally a lot of people tend to tab, you can control that, for example, right? You can do tabs. Paragraph rules, that means you can put rules above or below. You can do, I never use paragraph shading. You can do keep options, which means it will not let certain things split. So, for example, you don't want a single line on the next page up here by itself, right? Or a single word. You don't want those, right? Widows. So you don't want widows, you don't want orphans. So I'm keeping with the previous, and I'm keeping with 2 lines at least, right? So again, you have the preview, so you can see what's happening, right? Let's see something for a second. Yeah, I'm looking at this page number, why it went like that, but I'll figure it out. Hyphenation is very important if you use hyphens. This allows you to control. Normally, when you're looking at hyphens on this edge here on the right side, you do not want more than 2 dashes showing up one on top of the other. If you have 3 dashes, you need to work with that, and you need to make sure that that doesn't happen. So you can control it here by sort of words with at least 5 letters. Hyphen limit is 2 usually. So you want to control that. You can work with better spacing or fewer hyphens. Again, this is a style, so this is a particular style being applied, and you're setting it up. The justification, this is a really fantastic tool to know, and I will show you more about it. But if you want to, what you want to do is the word spacing. It's 80, 100, 133. There's several equations. I'm going to give you 70, 80, and 90 as a basis. Notice that there's some shift that occurred here. So as you're doing things here, you actually are seeing the shifts of that happening here, okay? You can do span columns, which means you can split the columns if you want to. You can do 2 columns. Oops, sorry. So let's say you want to do it into 2. You can split the column, so you see that you have 2 columns instead of 1 column. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to do a single column. Drop caps, I usually do them manually, the way you saw me do it here. And there's bullets, and there's open type features. So, right, so open type is the technology that allows typefaces to be able to work on PC and Mac. Before there was PostScript and TrueType. One was for Mac, one was for PC. If you have almost every typeface nowadays is an open type, so the designers set it so that it could be used on a PC or a Mac. You have underline options, you have strike through, and export tagging. You click OK, and now that is your basic paragraph. So, for example, this, let's see. So this here, notice how I just went back, right? And I hit the return. Notice that anytime there's a return, it's going to have this space. This is the indentation. If you want to make any changes, you can just go to the basic paragraph. Oops. Right? So you want to go here. You want to go to the basic paragraph. And let's say you want to say, okay, I want to go to type size 10. There you go. You do it, and it applies it. Anywhere where this basic paragraph, which is your basic text, is, that's done. That's great. So you can set up as many styles as you want, and you want to label them like caption, photo credit, whatever, a descriptive. Basic paragraph, you can't change it, just so you know. That has to stay basic paragraph. It's like mom. Characters work the same way. Literally, they're like a highlighter. Imagine a highlighter when you're reading a book. So you make a new style, so you create a new style, character style 1, and these you can start, let's say, underlined text. So let's say you want to play an underline. So the only thing you need to change is that particular thing you're going to change. So underline, I'm going to turn the underline on, and I'm going to give it like a 4-point underline. So you can see it. You can select the color is black. You can select the different types of underline. I'm going to do a wavy one and click OK. That means that when I go over here, I can click on my type tool and say, I want this here to have this underlined text. I apply it. Hey, wait a minute. Why is it not working? Oh, okay. Let me just make sure that so you go to underline text. I'm going to change the type size. So you only change, I'm going to do it 24 points. There it is. So you see 24 points. Right, so there's the underline. Underline options, you also can offset, right? So you see, so that the line does not bump right onto the text. You want to underline that. And let's say you're like, well, 4 is too much. Let me do, well, I can't see the curls there. I can start seeing them there. And then they start there. See? So this becomes like a highlighter, right? This basic paragraph controls all of the text. These are specific things you want to do that don't show up throughout. Get used to working with the styles, because when you get to do larger work, like our project 3, they're going to be super helpful. They're going to be super helpful in this project because you have multiple pages that you have to do. And it just becomes really, really, super helpful to start thinking. But again, look at the spacing between the letters printed out. Punctuation, you always have to turn in. So you put the cursor in there, hold the Option key and left and right keys. Okay, look at this comma, loves to like hang out. Is it too loose, too tight? It all depends. So yeah, so that's some basic paragraph styles. Some of you have asked me to show you how to do the paragraph styles because there was some confusion. These you want to practice because you don't get them right the first time, right? But if you want to make a new paragraph style, you click here and you can say photo caption, right? And then you can go ahead and start detailing what it is. And once you're done, you can go ahead and click on the text and apply the style, right? I didn't save it there, so if there was a photo caption, it will click there and it will do that. Keep in mind that the paragraph style works in paragraphs. So if you want to do something within the paragraph, that becomes a character. Because if you apply a paragraph style to this 3 words, the whole paragraph will take the style. Okay? So and then you save your file, and that's about it. Okay, looking forward to seeing what you are all going to do this weekend. And I will look at your work. All right, bye.